we'll create a storefront, which is actually a window family with an embedded door family in it. And then we'll load it to a project and create as many sizes as we want of that storefront and different sizes of the door, and yet schedule separately as what they are on those families. Okay, we'll start with a new family. Let's start with the door, but we're going to use a generic model first. Okay, now we're on the plan view. We'll do a reference plane here, do a mirror, dimension, and then another reference plane. Let's make this 1.5 and do a mirror, dimension, we'll give this a width parameter. We'll make this instance. We'll make this a thickness parameter, and we could leave it as type for now. Let's go to the front elevation. Let's hide this. Let's do a reference plane and make the door height 7 feet, and then make this the height parameter. Okay, now let's create another reference plane in the middle, and make it equal. So let's start with the door slab. Create, extrusion, and lock the 4 lines. Okay, then let's hide this and create the door swing. Symbolic line, hidden line, intersection, intersection, intersection. Okay, now let's go to the plan view and lock the door to the face of panel, exterior, face of panel, interior. Let's lock this and lock that. Okay, now let's change our thickness to 1.5 for now, 1.5 inch. Okay, as you can see, I made the width default, which is instance, and we'll change the height also to default, and I'll explain that later. Okay, let's save this as a door family. Door 1. Okay, remember, it's still a generic model family. We'll now go and change it to a door family, and then we'll make it shared. Okay, now let's start another family, which will be a window family. And let's make this 25 feet and make our window maybe 15 feet and a height of 10 feet, default seal of 0. So if you look at this on 3D, We're going to have a wide opening there. Now let's create our, let's stretch this center a little bit. Okay. We'll create the depth of the storefront. So create reference plane, 2.5 inches because we're going to be, oops. Sorry about that. 2.5 inches. Let's mirror that. Put a dimension here. Oops, dimension here. Press tab and make sure you're picking the reference plane and not the center of the wall. Equal. And we'll give this a parameter of storefront frame. Okay. Stretch that out. We'll create another one for the glass. Let's copy this and mirror and do a dimension equal and give this, oops, and give this as the glass. Thickness. Okay, now let's go to the interior elevation and we'll create our mullions. Let's get this out of the way here. Let's hide the cut for now. We'll create reference planes for our frame. We'll give it a 2-inch width. Dimension here. Two inches there. Dimension this. Okay, and then we'll mirror this to make sure we have our 2 inches. And then we'll create the head of the door and at the same time the horizontal mullion for the storefront. Create reference plane and we'll make it 7 feet. Then we'll copy this, make it 2 inches. So we'll give it a dimension from here to here, which will be the door. And then this and there with the thickness of the mullion. So let's give this guys a dimension and change this into a locked parameter of storefront frame width. Okay. Now this is the door height, so we need the door width. Let's create a reference plane for the door and make it 4 feet for now. And give this to the dimension for a door. Door width. And this will be the door height. Okay. We need a frame. Let's bring this up. We need a frame, or we need a jamb actually. We need a jamb for the door. So we'll copy this 2 inches. Give that dimension and just follow the storefront frame width. Okay. Let's say you want to put an intermediate mullion equal to this portion of the storefront. We could do that now. And we'll do an equal. And that's going to flex with whatever size our storefront is. Okay. So now we'll create our storefront first. We'll start with the perimeter. Lock it on the reference plane. On the reference plane. Okay. And we'll do a trim. Actually, we're going to do this here. Sorry about that. Okay. And then we'll do slice. SL slice on these guys. Now we'll do a trim. Okay, now we need a line there, so we'll lock this into and we'll get that error message, but that says there are two lines on the same, locked on the same reference plane. You just say okay, or just ignore that and then click that lock, and we'll do a trim. Okay, so now this is locked to that reference plane, and so is this. But on these, since we sliced them, only one of them is locked to this reference plane or to their respective reference plane. So we're going to do a locked or align. This, lock, this, lock, this, lock. There you go. So if I hover over the pink line and it doesn't highlight in blue, that means it's locked. But this one, I hover over it and it's blue, or it turns to blue, that means it needs to be locked. Okay? So now that we have that, we could go finish this, and we'll go with the intermediate mullion next. Create extrusion. We choose that and we offset it by 1 inch. And then we'll lock these guys into, let's go to 0 again. Lock that. Lock that. Lock. And then we're going to do another slice again. SL on the keyboard. We'll do a trim. Oops, trim. Okay. Since we sliced this, we need to give this the frame width parameter. So we'll do a dimension equal. Do the same for this. equal. Now we grab these 2 dimensions and we lock it to the storefront width parameter. Okay, now we'll see on 3D that they're still floating out there. So we'll go to the left elevation. Let's hide the walls and lock these guys to the exterior frame reference planes. Okay, so now we have our frame. Let's go to reference level and go to our door family. Let's put the door swing on plan on this family too. So we'll do an arc plane. Oops. Reference plane. 3 feet. We'll give it a dimension of 3 feet. And lock it to the width parameter. Let's hide the door for now, or the extrusion for now. Let's create a swing line. And create a symbolic line for the swing on the plan. There, a line. Okay, let's hide that. Annotate symbolic line. This. And we on the intersection. Okay. Now we could load this door family into the window family. Go to the interior view. Let's hide the frame for now. Let's nudge this up. Lock it there. And then move this and lock it to that reference plane. Okay. So now we have our door right there. Let's go to the left elevation and align the center of the storefront, which is this one here, and get this door to lock it in there. Okay, there you go. Now we need to create our glass. For the glass, just to make it simple, we'll make an L-shaped glass to follow the perimeter of the storefront glass, as opposed to creating them separately. Just makes the file a little smaller and a lot easier to create. Extrusion, lock, then trim. Now we'll give it a glass. Okay, finish that. Go to the left elevation and lock it on those reference planes that we created for the glass. So now we have our storefront family. Now let's try to flex this. Let's change our door height to 8 feet, our width to 16 feet, and maybe our height to 11 feet. Let's see if it flexes. Yeah. So let's go back to 15 feet and 10 feet. Okay. And let's change the door. Let's see if the door works at 3 feet and if it changes. Oh, it doesn't. So let's go back to the interior and lock this to that reference plane. Now let's try it again. Let's move it to 4 feet. Make the door 7 feet. Yeah. So go back to 8 feet. That works. Now we'll create a new project and test it out. Let's create a wall. Then let's load our family. Let's save it first as a storefront type 1A. Okay, and load it into the project. Okay, so now you have your door and window in there, and you could tag them separately. So let's do a tag, and that's for our window, and that's our tag for our door. Let's create a new type. Let's duplicate this, copy that, edit type, and then duplicate and make it type 1B. Well, no, let's give it no, let's rename this first into a name which is recognizable, which would be the 15 feet by 10 feet. Okay. Now let's duplicate this and make it an 18 feet by 10 feet. And we'll change our door to 3 feet by 7 feet. Okay. And we do a tag. And let's see if they schedule separately. So view, schedule, door, and we'll get the mark, the width, and the height. Maybe the type mark too. The type mark. Okay. Okay, so we have door number 1 and door number 2, and they're the same type, which is 4 feet by 8 for the first one, and then 3 feet by 7 feet for the second one. And if we could also create a window schedule, but more likely on window schedules we usually make window types for the storefronts. So if we create a view, legend, say window types, we create a line, we annotate with a legend component. We could grab storefront type A right there, and then another legend component for the 18 by 10 line, line, and you can start giving them the dimensions that you need. And then on here, we just say see door schedule. You know, dimension of each one of these. Or you could do a schedule of the windows. Mark width and height. And then you have the type mark too. So type 18, or you could change it to A. Okay, B. Okay, and if you go to the plan, it changes to A and B. So if I created another one and made a duplicate, and say made it 20 feet by 10 feet, or maybe 12 feet, made this 20 feet, and the door is 3 foot 6 by 8 feet, or maybe 7 foot 6. You do a tag, and that's it automatically turns to C, and this one the door turns into 3. And if you go to the door schedule, you have door number 3, which is 3 foot 6 by 7.6, and in the window you have that new storefront of 20 feet by 20 feet. I didn't even know I created 20 feet. Yeah, let's change that. Let's make it 12 feet. There, and it changes on the window schedule too. Okay, and then we could go to the legends, create a new one again, copy this, and change it type to the 20, and there you have it. Of course, you could create more intermediate mullions here and make it parametric, but I'll leave that up to you.